What is going on, Jets Nation? It is Richie and Jack live on the Jets Media Podcast. And today we have a very special guest. You guys know him very well. He spent his entire career with the New York Jets. 9 total years with the New York Jets. This man was tough, consistent, reliable, and I'm super excited to introduce our first former Jet on the Jets Media Podcast. And he's given us plenty of great memories.
Man, this is unbelievable. We grew up watching this dude play. He was a staple of the team for nearly a decade. Always fun to watch. Currently the host of In-Flight Snack, a New York Jets podcast. Make sure you guys go check that out. Link is in the description. We are so excited and we are honored to welcome our very special guest, former running back for the New York Jets, Mr. Bilal Powell. Thank you so much for joining the show.
What's going on,
man.
fellas?
Wow.
What's going on?
Welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for taking time. I've been watching your pod for a while. So, yeah, Quentin Williams on the show. So I'm like, you know what? My audience would love to have Bilal Powell because you are a franchise Jet. How does that feel to just be on the Jets for 9 straight years and just embody this fan base? I really think you embody a New York Jet. Oh, did we lose Bilal? It's frozen a little bit.
Oh, no.
Bilal, are you there? Oh, it's frozen. Technical difficulties to start it off. It's all good. We'll get him back. I know it. It's all good, though. You know what I mean? It happens.
It's not the first time we've dealt with technical difficulties on the pod. I mean, what a terrible spot for it to come. But
it's all good, man.
But we're gonna get him back, and we have questions for him, not only about his own career, but about the current state of the New York Jets. And as I just said, he's got a very interesting podcast out there right now. Link is in the description. In-Flight Snack, a New York Jets podcast. So he's got a lot of fun things to say, and it's kind of cool because I feel like after so many years as a player for the team, he is now kind of almost one of us in a way, you know?
Exactly that, and that's what I really want to ask him the most about. Like, how does it feel to be a former player turned into a Jets fan? Because I feel like he's become a Jets fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious his thoughts about, like, what's it like watching the games? Is you watching it with us? So here he is. He's back.
He's back.
You got us?
Yeah, you guys went out, you paused, and then you went out.
Yeah, it's sometimes it happens,
some
man. We've had some technical difficulties, but once again, man, thank you so much for joining us. And Richie had a question for you to open things up here.
Yeah, Bilal, I just wanted to say, man, you've been a New York Jet for 9 seasons, and it's really rare that a Jet is a New York Jet for their entire career. And have you kind of turned into a Jets fan? Like, are you watching these games like us, where you're stressed out and you're rooting for the Jets? Because we see you on the podcast, I see the passion. So what is it like watching these games and just viewing these New York Jets?
I'm definitely a New York Jets fan. It was one of those things when Rex first bought me in, man. He said one thing to me. He said, listen, I don't want you to be Leon Washington. I don't want you to be Curtis Martin. I don't want you to be Santonio Holmes. I want you to come in here and be Bilal Powell.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason we drafted you. And from then on, I just felt like I was indebted to the New York Jets organization. Like, these guys are taking a chance on me. Like, they met with me more than any other team throughout the draft, that whole process. They met with me like 3 or 4 times. They called. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to be a New York Jet. When they drafted me, I just felt indebted to the organization. So to retire a New York Jet, first of all, it was hard. You know, it's real hard to stay in one organization for a long time, especially with the turnaround that we had.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about 4 general managers, 3 head coaches, 7 offensive coordinators.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I found a way to stay in the building. So I took pride in that. And when I had the opportunity to reach out and say, hey, man, I think I want to retire a Jet. And they wanted to make it bigger than what it was. They wanted to bring in the media team. I said, nah, man, I want it with the people in the building, people that saw me for all those years. That would mean more to me than, you know, putting it out in the public, having everybody, all the media come in. But man, I'm watching these games now. And honestly, to tell you, now I understand the frustration of Jet fans and the heartache that they endure over the years. But man, I'm definitely rooting for those guys, man, for that organization.
You have become one of us, Bilal. And my follow-up to that
I love it.
is, what's your thoughts of the fan base? Because now it feels like you're one of us, but you've been a Jet for 9 years. You experienced us as a fan base, and this Jets fan base I like to call is one of the most passionate fan bases in the world. You can call me biased all you want, but man, we've been through it all, and we're still here supporting our team. So what's your message to Jets fans, and what's your overall thoughts that you learned from the fan base while playing, and of course, what you learned from the fan base after retiring?
Honestly, you're not being biased. It's the truth, man. Like Jets fans are very passionate. Just New York fans in general are passionate about sports. I mean, you have every professional sport in New York, and every sport, all these New Yorkers are very passionate about those sports. They're the greatest fans in the world to me, honestly. And you know, it's hard to find their love. It's hard, but once they love you, they love you.
Mm.
It's a very hard uh, area to play. So you have to have armadillo skin, as the late Tony Sperano used to say. You have to have tough skin to play in New York. But once you find your way and you find your niche, man, the fans really love you. It's probably the best fan base, especially with what they've been enduring over the years, man. They're still strong and passionate about their New York Jets, man.
You're going to make me cry, Bilal, man. Appreciate that. So I wanted to ask you, man, listen, the numbers don't lie, man. You are one of the best Jets running backs ever. 9 years with the team, 8th most rushing yards in team history, multiple 1,000-yard scrimmage seasons, great abilities as a pass catcher as well, special teamer from time to time, and effective for all of those 9 seasons. There wasn't a lot of drop-off. And I wanted to ask, when you first got into the league, who kind of paved the way for you? I know you spent a little bit of time around LaDainian Tomlinson your rookie season. That must have been exciting for you as a young player. But who was a running back that you looked to kind of not necessarily base your career around, but who inspired you? Who helped you grow when you first got into the league?
Honestly, it was LT. LT, having him as a veteran, and he was not hard on me. And I remember just everybody asking, calling back home, everybody, man, you playing with LT, and your uncles and friends, older guys, like, man, I remember watching LT. I don't ever meet. He wasn't hard on me. He wasn't hazing me. All I had to do was go to Chipotle on Friday and get his order and bring it back before I get on the bus. And I vowed to myself that day that I would not haze any running back, no rookie running back ever, because of how LaDainian Tomlinson treated me. But my biggest thing was coming in being a sponge. I didn't want to come in thinking that I knew everything. I wanted to come in and soak up all the knowledge. I wanted to watch how he prepared, how he carried himself. And when you watch a guy who was a future Hall of Famer at that time, in year 10, still practicing every day, not taking days off, not taking days off, finishing down to the end zone and running back, getting into the huddle the next play, is like, man, that's what it's like. If that's what got him to where he is and how consistent he has been in his career, then I need to mimic that. So from then on, I just remember him telling me, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to create an identity for yourself around the league, because the league is going to label you. Do you want to be a third down back? Do you want to be an every down back? Do you want to only be an early down back? You have that opportunity coming into the league. They might pre-draft and tell you, oh, this guy may be a third down back, but you have the opportunity. And I took that, man, and ran with it. And the opportunities that I had when I was able to be an every down back, I think I probably was an every down back. When they needed me to go in on third downs, I was a third down back. Whatever they needed me for, that what I was. I put my face toward it. I went, put my head down, and I think that's how I gained the respect from the New York fan base, because I never complained about anything or anyone that they brought in. I just worked hard, man, honestly. And looking back on my career now, man, I would have never thought that I would be saying 9 years in one organization, even though that was a dream. That was something that I was chasing from a personal goal standpoint, man. And to see it now is incredible.
And it's evident, man, consistency was a huge part of your game. And, just like you said, wherever they needed you, you seemed to not only be able to play, but kind of thrive and excel, whether it was, as a pass catcher, as a third down back, as the lead back, again, as a special teamer from time to time, kind of whenever and wherever your number was called, you were always there to answer the call, man. And as Jets fans, we appreciate that. We look back on that with some super, super fond memories, man.
Yeah, because as Jets fans, it's really rare to have someone that just embodies what it's like to be a New York Jet. And for you to do that, and for LaDainian Tomlinson, who in my upbringing, he was my favorite running back, even when he's on the Chargers. So when he came to the Jets, I was like, he's a Jet, and I was young at the time, so I was kind of mind-boggled. So it's really fun to hear that story, that LT was the one that really, helped you learn the game, and that's awesome. So Bilal, I did want to ask you a question about my personal favorite play of your career with the New York Jets. And I'll never forget my reaction watching this because I was screaming at my TV, get up, go, you weren't touched. In 2017 at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chat, let me know if you guys remember this play from Bilal Powell. Bilal leaps over the offensive line. He falls onto the ground. He's not touched, and he has the whereabouts to know to get up and sprint 75 yards for the touchdown. Just walk me through that play, Bilal, because I remember watching that, just screaming at my TV. I don't know if you heard me, but you just absolutely turned on the Jets, and you scored, and I'll never forget that play for me.
I absolutely heard you. That's why I got up and read, though. No, but it was one of those things where I had a great man. Anthony Lynn is probably one of the best running back coaches in the National Football League. And I had him, and he used to always emphasize, hey, man, it's not about just playing the game. It's about knowing the game. You need to be a student of the game. So he always used to tell us, over-exaggerate the drills, even at practice. He said, when you over-exaggerate the drills at practice, it becomes so natural in the game. And I remember falling in practice and, walking back to the huddle. And he grabbed me. He said, I never want to see you get up and walk back to the huddle. I don't care if you fall, you finish 20, 30 yards downfield. It was always a finish. It was always a finish no matter what, no matter if I ran straight through, didn't get touched, or if all the guys were thudding me, hitting me. And once I had that green grass, I had to burst for 15, 20 yards. He always put that in my head. And I remember when I hit the ground, it was just natural, dude, just to get up and just run. And, that's the importance of practice. That's the importance of, the muscle memory and the standards that you need to have as a professional, man. Like, you don't just show up. And this is to all the kids. You don't just show up on game day. Like, practice is very important. You know what I mean? Like, practice until you don't want to get it wrong. Not until you know what I mean? Not until you get it right. And I just remember doing that, and it was just a natural thing. And here we are, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I did hear you say, get up, get up. I heard that in the back of my
head. Dude, that's so cool to hear, you giving Anthony Lynn the credit, and just the coaching and the practice really translates to the field, because us as fans, we don't get to see what's going on behind closed doors. We don't get to see what's going on the practice field. So it's really cool to hear you bring us backstage and you giving the credit of the coaching staff. And shout out to you, man, because that was a hustle play. And again, that is my favorite play. Now, we do have some Jets fans in the chat that want to ask you some questions, Bilal. Kevin says, you really got one of the GOATs on here. Powell was such an awesome player, even cooler to see the person. Good job, Richie and Jack. Thank you, Powell. So Kevin says thank you. Appreciate you, Kevin.
Appreciate that, Kevin.
VR, love you, Bilal. Thank you for your service as a New York Jet. Question, as a player, who did you play against that made you turn into a fan for that moment? Jets, Jets.
Honestly, played against Luke Kuechly. And, to hear this guy. So the fans don't hear it on the TV, but playing against this guy was unbelievable because he called out every single play.
Oh.
I don't care if it was a trap, outside zone, power. This guy was like, watch out for this. Watch out. Hey, DT, they're coming that way. They're coming this way. Hey, slant this way. I got you back. And when you're hearing this on the other side, I'm like, this guy, like, he already know where the ball is going. He's already creeping that way. I'm like, I'm going to the sideline. Like, coach, he already knows what we're doing. Like, based on the splits of the old linemen and, he's light on his hands. And I'm sitting here listening to this while I'm still trying to process who I got in my blocking skill. I'm like, this dude is impressive. And that allowed him to, like, just play so fast. He looked a lot faster because he knew where the ball was already going. Obviously he had 8 years and, sat it down, but man, he would have definitely been one of those. Is arguably probably a Hall of Famer had he continued to play, at least a few more years. But man, that was just incredible to hear him just put his defense in the best position, just based on the cuts of the old linemen, based on the alignment of the running back, like, oh, he's free releasing, or he's tight, he's going this way, or he's coming down, and hey, watch the screen, and he's calling out our plays. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, how much film does this guy has to study to understand those cues, you know what I mean, to put his team in the best position?
That's interesting, man. Yeah, Kuechly was an absolute beast. I actually just picked up a Luke Kuechly card in my Madden Ultimate Team for anybody that's out there interested in that in the chat potentially. So Bilal, I wanted to ask you kind of we had a nice discussion about your career. I'd like to now kind of segue into the current state of the New York Jets. You've played on some good Jets teams. It's no secret that you've played on some not so good Jets teams as well. I want to know, how do you assess this current Jets team? I know it's kind of a loaded question. We have a badass defense. We have an offense that's gasping for life. So is there a way to label this team good or bad? Are they middle of the road? How do you assess this team right now? How do you assess them moving forward? Is there any way to salvage this season?
Honestly, I think when you look at this team, the way it's built, this is a mediocre team. And that's only because of the way the offense is playing. The defense, I mean, you're talking about the number one defense in the National Football League. And you're talking about a national team, national number one team, and yet you find ways to put more losses on the loss column, no more numbers. And that's based on what's happening on the other side of the ball. They've been living on the turnover margin. The offense, that's the only way we have any kind of life, is to base everything off of the turnover margin. And honestly, at this level of it, I know I had some people talk to me about Zach Wilson, and I mentioned some things about Zach, and I said, hey, listen, he's not playing like he's one of the 32 best quarterbacks lining up every Sunday. He's not playing like that. He's not playing like a he's not playing like an NFL quarterback. He's playing, yeah, absolutely. He's doing that. You can find anybody to do that, but he's not an NFL quarterback as of right now. In his third year, he hasn't turned that corner. And I mentioned to everyone, I said, well, if you want to talk about the O-line, you want to talk about the things going on around him, Breece Hall is averaging 5 yards a carry behind the same O-line that they're trying to say, well, this is why Zach is playing the way he's playing. No, Breece is finding a way to be an explosive player, because that's what good players do. Good quarterbacks overcome some of the things that are happening for the New York Jets. When you're winning a turnover battle and you still can't put up points, that is an issue in the National Football League. And people always talk about, well, the defense is giving up rushes late in the game. Well, they're giving up rushes late in the game because they're tired. Yeah. The offense isn't it. They aren't extending plays. It drives. They're tired. And that other team is a national football team as well. So if you continue to give them more opportunities, then yeah, of course, you're going to find plays and make plays during that time. So for me, when I look at it as an overall, it is a mediocre team solely based on the offense performance. I mean, the defense is great.
So
the special teams, I mean, the punter is great. The kicking, the field goal, everything's good except the offensive side of the ball, man. And man, honestly, you can't win like that. You're not going to win any games like that. Like these games we won, that was because of the turnover margin. If we don't, you can't hang your hat on the turnovers. So if you don't turn over the ball, you beat the New York Jets easily. If you take care of the football, you can beat the New York Jets.
Wow. So I did want to get your thoughts more follow-up, because the obvious, like you mentioned, the offense is the issue here. Number one defense, special teams doing their job. And it seems like they're not making any change at the quarterback spot, because if they did, they would have done it by now. So they're rolling with Zach Wilson heading into Buffalo. So what, from your perspective, needs to change, whether it's schematically, whether it's Zach Wilson just elevating his game and just playing, turnover-free ball and trying to just play a better quarterback and just score points, because, they're moving the ball. The penalties are not there, but they're not scoring touchdowns. So what is the issue with Zach Wilson? Is it just he's just not developing? He's not seeing the field right. There's an accuracy issue. He's not a leader. He's not, sparking it up, because you've played with quarterbacks in the NFL. You know what it takes for a quarterback to be, just average, because between me and you, Bilal, we know that this offense doesn't need to be great to be a successful team with this defense. They need to be middle of the road, and they can't even be that. And it's frustrating as a Jets fan. So what would you say to this Jets offense if you had any input, and Zach Wilson in particular, of how to figure it out? Because as we're sitting here right now, it does not seem like the Jets are making any quarterback change.
Honestly, I think Zach Wilson is doing a good job of taking care of the football. He only has 6 interceptions. He's just not making the plays that we need. Like, he doesn't have that awareness. When I look at Zach Wilson, I don't see any football IQ. And what I mean by that is, I think Zach Wilson is looking like what's wide open in college is not what's wide open in NFL. A guy that's wide open in NFL, the window's like this. In college, it was like this. And he needs to understand that. So that's the difference in the NFL versus college. Windows are a lot tighter. So him holding on to the ball, all right, he sacked 8 times against the Chargers, I'm sorry. Holding on to the ball on a 4th down, that was a desperate, instead of just throwing the ball up, he takes a sack. It's just the awareness and the IQ. And it's just being the commander. I'll talk about a quarterback being a commander on the field. When you recognize man-to-man, well, what's man-to-man? How can we beat man-to-man? Understanding where the blitz is coming from, getting to my hot routes, getting my offense in the right position, making the right checks. Those are the things that you need from a quarterback. Because when we line up, we're lining up to the defense, not allowing them to dictate what we do. And sometimes when you line up, a defense is going to line up and you can look and be like, well, they got us. Well, actually, they don't, because we can audible. So at what point does Zach takes charge as a leader and say, I need to put my team in the best position? I played with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He checked most of the plays at the line of scrimmage because he saw something. And Zach Wilson is not doing that. We see him locking in on Garrett Wilson. And I say this, he's locking in on Garrett Wilson. He's not going through his progression. And the biggest thing with Zach Wilson right now, he's afraid to make the mistakes. Okay. He's afraid to throw the interceptions because of the criticism he may get. You could tell the way he's playing, he's not playing confident. He's not letting it rip like he was at BYU. And we saw a little stint of that versus the Kansas City Chiefs when he was just letting it rip. And then all of a sudden, it's like he went back into this cocoon. He went back into this shell. And it's like, no, Zach, you're going opposite. Like, you need to thrive off that. You need to continue to progress off of that. You just almost beat the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl champions. Like, yeah, we need that week in and week out. On top of just hand the ball to Breece Hall. He's averaging 5 yards a carry, dude. Like, it's not rocket science. You know what I mean? But you're right. I think they just don't have a true leader when it comes to Zach Wilson on the field. And when I started off this year on my podcast, I was all for Zach. I was all for him. I was pushing for him. I was just like, hey, look, at the end of the day, he's behind Rodgers. Give him an opportunity to see what it is like. And then the injury happens, and he's like, oh, next up. This is a next man up league. And if the New York Jets thought that Zach Wilson was the best answer after that injury, I don't know. I'm not a general manager, but I felt like there was more talent available at that time when that happened. And I just don't think that Zach Wilson gives the New York Jets the best chance to win on a weekly basis. I really don't. And there's other pieces. Like, we're talking about injuries. Everybody's dealing with injuries in the O-line. Everybody's dealing with it. But when you have a number one defense who's constantly stopping teams from scoring, and all you have to do is just get in the end zone once or twice a game, that's as easy as it comes if you're a quarterback. That's as easy as you come. As a quarterback, when they give you opportunity after opportunity, just go put up points, and you still cannot find a way to put up points. Get in the red zone. You cannot score. There are times where I've seen him actually miss a read of a wide open touchdown. You've seen the overthrown balls. Those are the little things that separate you from just being a quarterback and being the quarterback. Mm-hmm. That's the difference in the National Football League. There's a standard that is held, man, that a lot of people don't understand when you're looking at film and when you're evaluating a player.
Absolutely, man. We're in agreement there, Bilal. And I wanted to now ask you kind of about the head coach. You've played for 3 different head coaches throughout your career, kind of all very different guys from one another, I think that goes without saying. I'm not going to mention any specific names, but we all know what's going on here. And there's a lot of different narratives out there about Robert Saleh. Some think he's more of a friend than a coach and are ready to move on. Some swear he's still the guy. And I wanted to ask you, for somebody that's been through it all in terms of, like I said, playing for 3 different coaches, when it comes to the undisciplined penalties, when it comes to a coach demanding accountability from his players, what do you respond to the most? What made you the better player? Let's say you fumbled or you got a penalty or something, and Rex or Todd Bowles or whoever it was at the time, you know, was it more beneficial for you to get your ass handed to you or not?
Listen, all you gotta tell me is one time. You know, I'm not the guy where you gotta come and put on the wall, pin to the wall, yell. But you, as a head coach, I think you have to have a healthy balance. You know, you have to have that. You know, I'm a player's coach, but this is still a business, and it's a cutthroat business, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to make certain moves, and you have to, you know what I mean. You have to have certain standards, and it's still your team at the end of the day. Like I remember Rex saying that. I remember Todd saying that. Hey, this is still my team. You know, I'm giving you guys the leeway. You know, it's about the players, but that is the head coach's team. You go as the head coach, and you know, for him to be a defensive coach and then have that defense, you also need to have a head coach on the other side of the ball because he's a defensive minded coach. You know what I mean? So he need to have a guy over there that's like been in that position, that knows what it is, that has the same standards as him. You have to have two head coaches on the same team when you're talking about offense and defensive minded coach. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I see it. And you know, you are as good as your coaches as a head coach, and that's from every level. You are as good as your assistants. And we look around the league, and you see all these head coaches that are successful, that see these guys come from underneath them, that go on to be good head coaches. You are as good as your coaches in your leadership. And I think that the Jets have great leadership when it comes to players. Like as ugly as this season has been, um, you don't see all the unknown sources come out in the media.
Yeah.
Like you don't see that. And those guys have did a great job this year of keeping everything in house. Too much in house because everybody wants to know why is Zach Wilson still playing. Robert Saleh can't give you a direct answer. Um, you know, it's unfortunate because you hate to see a good team, a defense, I should say, a good season because
They're wasted.
they're still in control of their destiny right now with two divisional games coming up this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
back to back. You talk about this week you're fighting for number two, the next week you're fighting for the first spot in the division. That's crazy. You know what I
Right
mean?
there.
So but you just hate to see it dwindle away, man. Like almost like just pushing it away. Like you know, sometimes I'm just like lost for words at, you know, how it's being handled. But obviously, I'm not in control of the organization, the front office or the coaching staff. I don't see film. I try to tell people, you know, the TV copy and the film copy is totally different. Maybe it really is something that's not Zach's fault. You know, maybe our receivers aren't getting open. You know, you can't see certain things. You know, maybe the receivers aren't getting to the proper depth. Like it's little things that do happen that you see on film that you don't see, you know, on the TV copy. So maybe they're fighting for him because of that for that purpose. And you know,
Yeah.
it's tough though, man, because
It is tough.
I want
It
the
is
I
tough.
mean the defense is good. This is number one defense in the league, dude. Like
And there's
it's
another
tough,
piece to
dog.
this offense, Bilal, that I had to ask you a question about because there's a shakeup going on with the running back room and the running game. I feel like going into the season, even with Aaron Rodgers, was supposed to be the identity, is really establish that run game to open up the play action. Brees Hall coming off the ACL, he's been great this season, but the run game has been struggling. I mean, against the Raiders, there was no, push from the offensive line. There was no holes open up. I know Brees, in my opinion, still having a darn good season coming off the ACL, but we saw them release Michael Carter, and they have the rookie Izzy going to make his NFL debut. And of course, we still got Dalvin Cook. So I want to get your thoughts of the entire running back room and the move of releasing Michael Carter and elevating Izzy to give him his rookie debut against the Buffalo Bills. Do you have any thought that the Jets are actually going to utilize Izzy? Because again, they have Brees still. They still have Dalvin Cook, who actually showed some life against the Raiders in limited opportunities. So I just want to get your thoughts of the New York Jets running game and the running back room heading into this week.
Honestly, I think they was just looking for a spark. I think
Mm-hmm.
He's a one cut guy. He has the deceptive speed. He's a long strider. But I think you'll probably use him in the return game. I think with Xavier Gibson, I said it ever since that Buffalo game, he hasn't been explosive in the return game. And you know, honestly, that third phase of special teams is very important. It's an opportunity for you to flip the field. for either the offense or the defense. And I just think in the return game, you haven't seen any like explosive like kick returns. And we've seen in previous years, especially with Brent Boyer's special teams, how the return guy has been like the dude. Like you saw Braxton, and then before that, forget his name. Who was it? He went to the Pro Bowl. I forget his name. I'm having a blank. But
Andre Roberts.
Andre Roberts. You
There you
know,
go.
they just had explosive returners that flip the field, and you're not getting that from Xavier Gibson. So I think you'll probably see him more in that return game as far as kick return. On the offense, honestly, the injuries, they happen. You know, you're moving pieces. You got guys playing out of position, and it's gonna take a few weeks to get going, to get glued, man. Honestly, you know what I'm saying. So, I think this is the time that you need to run the football with the weather change. This is the time that you have to run the football because it starts to get cold out there in that AFC East. It starts to get cold, so you definitely have to find a way to run the ball. Find a way to. You have to get creative, and I said it earlier this year that Nathaniel Hackett has to get creative, and he at one point he was getting creative, and then he kind of like pulled back on some of the creativity. I don't know what that was about. Just looking at it from from outside in, I just felt like at one point he was getting creative, and then you saw the explosive runs and catches that Breece Hall was having. You saw the offense was clicking at the time, and I just think they just got to continue to live on the run game. Because you can't afford to have Zach Wilson trying to keep you in the football game. So you have to find a way to get the run game going. They've been slow here in the last few weeks with the run game, and I think it'll change this week. I think that's probably something they'll have to emphasize, especially moving Michael Carty, which I hate to see him go. He's a good player. I think he's a good player, not a system player, because there's two type of guys. I talk about good players and system players. You've seen guys who went to other teams and just fell off because they just don't fit systems. They only fit one system. So I think Michael Carter can go anywhere and play in any system. And I wish him the best. He was a cool dude, man. He's a cool dude. So that opens up the opportunity for Izzy and the young guys. Ruckert, I think, is getting an opportunity.
Yeah, I hope
because
so.
of CJ and his struggles with the holding penalties. So hopefully we can see younger guys that come in with fresh legs at this time, and just see if the offense can get a spark.
Yeah, because that's all we need is a spark, man. We just need this offense to the bare minimum. And before we get you out of here, Bilal, we just have a couple more quick hitters and then get your thoughts about the Jets-Bills coming up. Rad Diddy says, Bilal was such a steadying force on offense. When we needed a few yards, whether a carry or reception, you always came through. Yes, you did, man.
Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you. Did. Kevin asks, Bilal, do you think the Jets are cursed? I know, we're not cursed. Come on, Kevin.
No.
We ain't cursed.
All right, Bilal, we got some quick hitters for you, man. You can just give a quick answer. No need for any explanation. We got a few quick questions, starting with your current favorite New York Jet.
Garrett Wilson.
Love it.
Easy money.
Now, your last season.
Two. Quinnen Williams is my dude.
Okay.
That's we go. Quinnen Williams, Garrett Wilson on offense. I have to go with two.
There we go.
Go wrong. Now, your final season with the Jets, there was a uniform switch. So, was your favorite uniforms the ones that you wore for 8 seasons or the ones that we're wearing today?
The ones that we're wearing today. I like it. I like the all blacks. I like the all blacks.
Yeah.
I love the all black.
All black is sick. Best player you've ever played with, not played against, but best player you've ever been on the same team with.
Man, I'm gonna have to probably go with best player. This is a tough one. I'm trying to think.
It's a tough one, man. I was
so much turnaround, dude.
I was excited to ask you this, man.
Best player I've ever played with. Then I probably have to go with Chris Ivory.
Oh, he was such a dog.
Chris Ivory. Monster.
Ivory. He was so underrated. Man. So underrated.
Monster.
Oh, yeah.
You did not want to tackle that dude.
No.
Dude, he was a bowling ball. And he still has that breakaway speed, too.
Yeah.
Balance. I loved it. Now, all-time favorite running back. Like, when you were younger, who did you model your game after the most? And who's your GOAT in your eyes in the running back room?
LT.
Hey, easy
Love
answer.
it. Love it.
Easy.
Love it.
Easy. LT.
Easy. All right. yes or no, gut feeling, does Aaron Rodgers play again for the New York Jets this season?
No.
Me too. I feel the same way.
And then to finish it off, Bilal, Jets Bills. What's your prediction? Are the Jets going to go into Buffalo and escape with a gritty win? Because you said the weather is now turning into the AFC East, cold and rainy day, and they're going to have to establish this run game. So give us your thoughts about this upcoming matchup and your overall predictions if the Jets can pull off this W.
I think it'll be a gritty, hard, tough-nosed win. I think our defense has Josh Allen's number, and I think he'll give us a few turnovers. He's been kind of reckless with the football the last 2 years, so I see our defense getting at least 2 turnovers from Josh, 1 interception, maybe a fumble. He likes to run, and he's reckless with the ball. And on the offensive side, I just think we need to establish the run game. Establish the run game. My prediction is definitely I don't think we scored a lot. 17-14 New York Jets.
Let's go.
There we go. Hey, I'm right there with you, man. I feel like it's going to be – it always seems to be a kind of gritty battle against the Bills. I feel like both teams are unfortunately going to make some mistakes. But we got the Bills' number, man. We got Josh Allen's number. He's been stinking it up lately. Unfortunately, as we all know,
fired the OC. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
fired the OC.
It could look very different. Could look very different without Dorsey there. So we'll see, man. But I have faith in this defense to do their thing like always. And if we can see one offensive touchdown, just one, can we? You know, that
one,
would be,
just give me one.
And then 3 Greg Zuerlein.
And 3 field goals. 1 and 3 field goals.
That's all we need, Bilal. We're not asking for a lot
Bilal,
over here.
What are you doing on Sunday afternoon? Can we get you up to Buffalo and get you in a uniform and get you in that backfield? Get you in the end zone?
Man. Unless you want me in for short yardage, goal line.
Hey,
we'll
take you for anything right now, man.
Hey, dude,
we need to get in the end
We
zone.
need to convert in the red zone, man. I think you're the guy for that.
Hey, man. Well, Bilal, I just got to say thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday to join the Jets Media Podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you on. You are the first former Jet on our podcast, and we can't thank you enough, again, for taking time. Folks, everybody in the chat, please go check out Bilal Powell's podcast. That is linked in the description. Go subscribe to him on YouTube and check him out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can check him out on his social medias. Bilal, you have anything you want to say before we finish off the show to Jets fans?
No, man. I appreciate it. Enjoy the game Sunday. Hopefully we come out with a W, man.
Thank you so much,
Bilal. And then, hey, I'll get you on my show too as well, man. You're more than welcome.
Hey, man.
More than welcome.
Truly an honor. Truly an honor from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much for taking time. A surreal moment for the two of us who have been watching you since we were, 12 years old.
Feels like half my life you were on the Jets. I'm 25 years old.
Yeah. So for basically half our fandom, you were a staple of the team that we love more than anything. So Bilal, thank you so much, man. From the bottom of our hearts, really means a lot. And again, go check out the In-Flight Snack podcast. I love listening to it. Great stuff on there. Thank you so much, Bilal.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Take care.
All right.